Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in early to the Jim Acosta Show. We're starting an hour early today because we thought this was very important to bring to our viewers everywhere. Congressman Robert Garcia, he's the ranking Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, and Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, he's the ranking member of the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. They're going to be holding what they're calling a bicameral public forum in D.C. talk. It's a shadow hearing because it's not an official congressional hearing. The Democrats don't hold the majority in the House and the Senate, but they're holding this forum to gather testimony on ICE violence. They're saying it's on the violent tactics and disproportionate use of force by agents of the Department of Homeland Security. One of the reasons why we're bringing this to you live is because two of the brothers of Nicole Good, who is the U.S. citizen who was shot and killed by ICE back in January, they are supposed to testify. Brent Ganger. I want to make sure I'm saying that correctly. Brent Ganger and Luke Ganger. They are the brothers of Renee Good. They're going to be testifying, as well as other people who have been in the news talking about some of the ICE violence that we've seen unfold over the last several months. There's some former police officers, other experts that have been involved. But the reason why we thought this was so newsworthy is because the family of Renee Good, in the form of these two brothers, they will be testifying, or they're scheduled to testify at this hearing. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to let this roll. Congressman Robert Garcia is speaking now. You'll also see Senator Richard Blumenthal. And we'll cut in if we need to, but we're just going to try to let everybody watch this. And then at 4 o'clock, we'll have our regular edition of the Jim Acosta Show. We're going to be speaking with Steve Schmidt and some other guests, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, let's watch the hearing.
Last year, it was over $85 billion. And if you look at funding for the agency and look at what just happened in the last year, it is stunning to see how much we are spending across this country to terrorize, disfigure, in some cases kill U.S. citizens and people across this country. Now, Oversight Democrats have tracked, reviewed, and vetted over 470 incidents on our immigration enforcement dashboard, and 186 of them include problematic uses of force by agents. Now, these are not isolated mistakes. They are a clear pattern. And we know that's a tip of the iceberg. We're seeing ICE, CBP, other parts of DHS, all across our country terrorize communities. We've seen warrantless searches of homes and vehicles. We've seen folks arrested, detained with no criminal history. We've seen folks be sent to detention centers only to be released with no explanation as to why. Now, American citizens and innocent people have been brutalized, and our witnesses today will testify to that. And to be clear, we've seen people dragged from cars, beaten, gassed, attacked with crowd control weapons, blinded, like back in my home state of California, left with broken ribs, run off the road, beaten, injured, disfigured, and shot. Officers have been ordered to enter homes without warrants in violation of the Constitution. And we've also seen the federal government labeling American citizens as domestic terrorists, calling people, quote, assassins, and falsely claiming they intended to kill law enforcement, which we know, of course, has been untrue. We're seeing the results of policies set by powerful people of no respect for the Constitution, no respect for the law, no respect for basic humility. And these folks here, which we know well, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Kristi Noem, Stephen Miller, of course, Tom Homan, and Greg Bovino, these people, every single one of them, has to be held accountable for the crimes, for the terror, and for the murders that are happening to our own people in this country. We're taking action today because the stakes could not be higher. Now, this morning, Oversight Democrats released our initial investigation into the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Now, Alex, of course, was a VA nurse who was peacefully exercising his First and Second Amendment constitutional rights before he was pepper sprayed, tackled, disarmed, and then shot repeatedly in the back. Now, Renee Good was a mom who told an officer, which we all have seen on video, "I'm not mad at you." She said, "I'm not mad at you." before she was shot dead. We mourn both of these two Americans today, and we find that these shootings cannot be justified. We also know they were part of a broader pattern of escalating unlawful violence by the Trump administration and DHS to intimidate dissent. Now, this administration then lied about the events and is now obstructing independent investigations to cover up misconduct and deny accountability to the victims and to the public. Our hearing today will build on evidence, not just that we put out in our reports, in our investigation, but the incredible work being done by the Senate, its various committees. And again, I especially want to thank Senator Blumenthal for his leadership of holding these hearings. The stories that we're going to hear today are hard to tell and they're hard to hear. So I want to thank again our witnesses for the courage and the strength that it takes to be here today. This is a step towards accountability, and we know that the courage, that the strength that you all have that are bringing is in light of what you're hearing from the administration. I think it's important for the public to recognize that this administration has lied, has defamed, and has smeared people that have been peacefully protesting. They've weaponized the Department of Justice to silence protesters, observers, and of course, journalists. But I also remind folks that Donald Trump won't be president forever. Kristi Noem won't be the secretary forever. And when you serve this country in an elected office or in uniform, you swear an oath to the Constitution. You pledge to work for all Americans. You don't get a license to kill, and there's no absolute immunity. We're going to stand up for the rights of our communities, and we believe strongly that we need to hear the stories of those that are in front of us today. I want to thank our witnesses for the courage, and I want to yield back to our host today, and really the person that's been organizing and leading all of these hearings, Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you so much, Representative Garcia. Working with you has been a great experience in partnership, and I am really gratified that we're going to continue our work, continue our investigation, continue our efforts to hold DHS accountable. This hearing is extraordinary and unprecedented, but so is the inhumanity and brutality that we've seen from a government agency. With us today are brave Americans who have come forward to speak truth to power. That phrase is overused, but truly it applies today. With us in spirit are also Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy, in spirit. They should be here in person, but they were murdered. They were murdered by their own government. They were killed in cold blood. And I can only imagine how painful it must be for you to see that image of your sister, which speaks to your courage, your guts, your grit and determination to be here. And you have won the admiration and gratitude of all of the colleagues here and many others and Americans throughout the country. The witnesses here bear the scars of government lawlessness and DHS brutality, mental scars as well as physical scars. They're here as the face and voice of Alex and Renee and of thousands of others who span the country and who have experienced this inhumanity. And let's be very clear. These stories are not just about Minneapolis. People here from all over the country. These stories span the country. The nation is Minneapolis. We are all Minneapolis. And these stories are a call to action. I was in this room just a few hours ago at a hearing of the Armed Services Committee. I sat on this dais as we heard from witnesses about our national nuclear security in the face of threats from enemies and adversaries abroad who have nuclear weapons. We are here about a matter of national security that is equally important to the one that we heard about this morning. The violence unleashed by the Trump administration against our fellow citizen can touch any American at any time, any one of you who are listening by live stream or C-SPAN, or who are hearing and seeing this hearing. Whether you're going to a church clothing drive, to make a donation on your way to a doctor's appointment, or even heading home from dropping your 6-year-old son off at school. Real stories we will hear today. These stories, and far too many others, demand that every one of us stand up against the injustices and demand accountability. The directives underlying this lawlessness come from the top. Those pictures of the leaders that Representative Garcia showed you are ultimately the culprits here. They bear responsibility. They are the ones who issued the quotas for arrests and detention that are driving the brutality. They are the ones who have issued a policy directive, kept secret until a whistleblower came to me, showing that the acting director of ICE is authorizing agents to break down your door, ransack your home, terrify your children, detain and arrest you, as has happened countless times across the country. The top ranks of DHS are more than complicit. They are the driving force behind this brutality, and they should be held accountable. They've not only directed those actions, but also the lies and misinformation that have been presented to courts in violation of the duties lawyers have to present only the truth to courts. And they have engaged in character assassination against today's witnesses, as well as countless others, including Alex and Renee. We are at a defining moment. It's a moral moment. We are determined to continue to investigate and uncover wrongdoing, but we'll also seek action for accountability and justice. My feeling is that we should demand a complete overhaul, a rebuilding of DHS and the agencies that fall here. These reforms should include body cameras and identification on every officer, masks off at all times, rigorous use of force training and policies, independent investigations into acts of violence, and ongoing monitoring of these agents. A police force that has these kinds of systematic failings would be supervised by a monitor. And we've seen it in Connecticut, as my colleagues have seen it in their states around the country. And most important for me, rights of citizens to seek redress, rights of anyone to have recourse in the courts to make sure that agents violating their rights are held accountable. If you go to your local police chief and ask, what are the norms? Every one of the demands that I've listed here is going to be recounted to you, including a right of action on the part of people to seek accountability. It can be done with 4 words. 4 words. In the current United States Code, 1983, all we need to do is add, when we say every person, under color of any statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of the United States, or any other state or territory. That basic responsibility ought to be the right of every citizen, because we know that rights without remedies are empty promises. if a local cop can be sued, so should an ICE agent or a CBP official. And so should Greg Bovino and Kristi Noem and Todd Lyons and Steve Miller, and yes, Donald Trump. There is a real need for a full accounting of what these agencies have done. Someday we should have a Truth and Justice Commission to investigate the systematic failings. But for right now, I can promise that I will not support another dime for the Department of Homeland Security unless there is this fundamental, far-reaching reform and restraint, in effect, a rebuilding of the agency. So Renee and Alex are not with us, but the silencing of their voices should strengthen our resolve to force change, to stand up for what's right, to show our neighbors, our communities, and the world that we won't let totalitarian tyranny prevail and fear crumble this great nation. One day, I think we will look back and hold ourselves accountable, whether we stood up and took stands. Luke Ganger and Brent Ganger are showing that courage and strength today. And they're here to share some words about their sister. Luke and Brent, on behalf of all of us, I want to express again our gratitude, and we offer our condolences. Words are inadequate, but just know from our hearts, we are with you in spirit for this devastating loss, and we thank you for being here today. And I recognize you now for your remarks.
Thank you, Ranking Member Blumenthal and Ranking Member Garcia, and distinguished members of Congress. My name is Luke Ganger, and I'm here with my brother Brent. Renee Good is our sister. We're here on behalf of Nae's big family and those who loved her. We're here to ask for your help. I was talking to my 4-year-old last week when she noticed I was not doing well. I had to come here today and talk to some important people. She knows that her aunt died and that somebody caused it to happen. She told me that there are no bad people and that everyone makes mistakes. She has Nae's spirit. The deep distress our family feels because of Nae's loss is in such a violent and unnecessary way is complicated by feelings of disbelief, distress, and desperation for change. In the last few weeks, our family took some consolation, thinking that perhaps Nae's death would bring about change in our country, and it has not. The completely surreal scenes taking place on the streets of Minneapolis are beyond explanation. This is not just a bad day or a rough week or isolated incidents. These encounters with federal agents are changing the community and changing many lives, including ours, forever. And I still don't know how to explain to my 4-year-old what these agents are doing when we pass by. Our family is deeply grateful for the outpouring of love and support from the community in Minneapolis and from people across the country and around the world. The prayers and words of support have truly brought us comfort, and it is meaningful that these sentiments have come from people of all colors, faiths, and ideals. That is a perfect reflection of Renee, who carried peace, patience, and love for others wherever she went. Our family is a very American blend. We vote differently, and we rarely completely agree on the finer details of what it means to be a citizen of this country. We attend various churches and some not at all. And despite those differences, we have always treated each other with love and respect. And we've gotten even closer during this very divided time in our country. And we hope that our family can be even a small example to others, not to let political ideals divide us, to be good like Renee. But the most important thing we can do today is to help this panel and our country understand who Renee is and what a beautiful American we have lost. A sister, a daughter, mother, a partner, and a friend.
Good afternoon. My name is Brent Ganger, and I'd like to share some thoughts from the eulogy that I gave on my sister's behalf this past Saturday. When I think of Renee, I think of dandelions and sunlight. Dandelions don't ask permission to grow. They push through cracks in the sidewalk, through hard soil, through places where you don't expect beauty, and suddenly there they are, bright, alive. Unapologetically hopeful. That was Renee. And sunlight, warm, steady, life-giving, because when she walked in a room, things felt lighter, even on cloudy days. Renee had a way of showing up in the world that made you believe things were going to be okay. Not because she ignored the hardship, but because she chose optimism anyway. She chose to look for what was good, what was possible, and what was worth loving. Nene loved fiercely, openly, and without hesitation. As a mother, Renee poured herself into love. The kind of love that shows up every day, that sacrifices quietly, that cheers loudly, that believes deeply. Her children were and are her heart. Walking around outside her body. And she made sure they felt safe, valued, and endlessly loved. As a sister, she was constant. Someone you could lean on, laugh with, or just sit in silence beside. She had a way of making you feel understood, even when you didn't have the words yet. She didn't just listen, she saw you. She believed in second chances. She believed tomorrow could be better than today. She believed that kindness mattered, and she lived that belief. Even when things were hard, Nay looked for the light. And if she couldn't find it, she became the light for somebody else. It was the excessively ordinary things that made Nay so beautiful. There are billions of people who now know her name, and it would be so easy to fall into the false belief that great heroic things are required to overcome difficult things in the world. But as Tolkien wrote, it is the small, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay. small acts of kindness and love. That's why the image of dandelions feels so right. People try to pull them up, overlook them, dismiss them, but they keep coming back, stronger, brighter, spreading seeds of hope everywhere they land. Renee planted those seeds in all of us. In her children, in her family, in friends, coworkers, and people who maybe didn't even realize they needed her light at the time. And sunlight. Sunlight doesn't ask for recognition. It just gives. It warms, it nurtures, it helps things grow. Renee did that for us. She helped us grow. She helped us believe in ourselves. She helped us see the good, even when life felt heavy. Renee is not gone from us. She's in the light that finds us on hard days. She's in the resilience we didn't know we had until we needed it. She's in the laughter, the memories, the love that continues to grow. Like dandelions, like sunlight, and like Renee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brent and Luke, for that really powerful appeal to the nation's conscience. And I hope to our colleagues on both sides of the aisle, and I hope that all of our colleagues will join in seeking the action that you just described that is so important, not just as a tribute to your sister, but as a way to prevent the kind of lawless brutality that caused her death, literally murder. So thank you for being here today. We are going to now have the second panel come forward and excuse the first. We're ready to begin the second panel. I want to welcome all five of you and reiterate our thanks to every one of you for being here. Everything that I said about Brent and Luke could apply to every one of you. Your courage and your strength enable us to move forward, to seek action, to appeal to the conscience of our country. We're fortunate to be joined today by Antonio Ramanucci. Mr. Ramanucci is an attorney representing the family of Renee Nicole Good. He has extensive experience representing victims of policy violence, including the family of George Floyd. Marie Martinez is an American citizen, resident of Chicago. She is here to share her experience of being shot 5 times by Customs and Border Protection agents in Chicago this past October. Alia Rahman is an American citizen and resident of Minneapolis. She is here to share her story of being violently stopped and detained by immigration agents while on her way to a doctor's appointment just 3 weeks ago. Martin Daniel Rascon, known as Daniel, I believe. He is an American citizen and resident of San Bernardino, California. Mr. Rascon is here to share his story of being shot at by an immigration agent while traveling in a vehicle with family members last year. Finally, on our panel, Seth Stoughton. He is a former police officer and professor at the University of South Carolina School of Law, where he is faculty director of Excellence in Policing and Public Safety. He is here to share his expertise about the proper methods of policing, including when and where it is appropriate for police to use force. Mr. Ramanucci, we'll begin with your testimony.
Ranking Member Blumenthal, Ranking Member Garcia, and distinguished members of Congress. My name is Antonio Ramanucci, and I am a civil rights and tort litigation attorney with the deep honor of representing the Renee Good family for her tragic shooting death by federal agents in Minneapolis. I have handled excessive force cases across the country for decades. My colleagues and I are deeply distressed at these invasions onto a fellow American's civil rights by our own government that have gone well beyond the initial scope of removing criminals. The occupation by ICE and CBP in our cities is way beyond their mission, leading to unnecessary provocation that causes needless harm and death. These operations in multiple states have routinely and consistently included violations of the Constitution. We call for an immediate end of false narratives by federal officials about the victims of excessive force. The character assassinations and conclusions before an investigation has been started, let alone completed, must stop. In America, our leaders must be held to a standard of truth and responsible speech. There is no such thing as absolute immunity, and that perception leads to agents who behave with absolute impunity, leading to exaggerated and violent, provoked encounters with people. This is an unprecedented and deeply unsettling time, and the roadmap to navigating this national crisis lies within this august body. My job today will be to share information about the process to hold federal officers accountable for actions we believe are violations of constitutional rights in the face of other investigative bodies failing to do so. In Renee Good's civil case, our team has promised to provide transparency about what happened to her as we continue our independent investigation in an aggressive way, but also in a moral and ethical manner. We want to be the voice of reason for the country that wants to understand and deserves the facts. For example, we wrote and shared a letter to relevant federal agencies asking for responsible handling and preservation of evidence, such as Renee's vehicle, records of the agent's declared injuries, his cell phone, and any statements he made about the use of force and protesters. At the family's request, we conducted an independent autopsy of Renee's body so we could better understand her injuries and her experience in those final moments. And we released some of those high-level results, again, to provide transparency and truth to Americans. And lastly, we are providing information to the public on reasonable policing policies and practices so people can view the video of Renee's death through that lens. The lens is a wide-angle one where the totality of circumstances must be viewed and not just one frame. The United States legal system allows for individuals to pursue civil justice with the suit against a city, county, or state for the conduct of its officers and against the officers individually. These types of legal claims are made under what is called 42 U.S. Code Section 1983. This was part of the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1871 and is essential for accountability when an officer behaves unconstitutionally. Keep in mind that this act is 155 years old and desperately needs an amendment. However, similar legal action against federal law enforcement officers like ICE or Border Patrol is not currently allowed under Section 1983. There is a current possible path of civil recovery through the Federal Tort Claims Act, or FTCA, but this is challenging. It requires first the filing of a claim with the government agency that has harmed you, and then waiting up to 6 months for a reply. Our current paradox is that America should not require the permission of the federal government to sue the federal government for cases like Renee Good or Alex Preddy. If the government must give you permission to seek accountability for violation of constitutional rights, then your rights are just words on paper. There is a legislative remedy to this paradox. At the state level, Minnesota and other states can pass bills making it a state law to violate constitutional rights. In Illinois, we did this by signing House Bill 1312. Congress can remove this roadblock to federal accountability by amending Section 1983 and adding 4 words, as you, Senator Blumenthal, pointed out, so federal officers can be sued civilly if their conduct merits it. The current language spells out that state, county, and municipal law enforcement can be sued, and Congress would only need to add the words "or the United States" to the list of governments whose officers could be brought to civil justice. It's that simple. I'm urging you to consider this amendment and fix a 155-year-old problem. The current path to hold federal officers accountable is narrow and an uphill climb, and that will not deter us in the Renee Good case. Please, let's not repeat a very recent moment in history when we said never again, and having Congress miss the opportunity to pass harm-stopping legislation seeking accountability when the law requires. I thank you. I thank this esteemed panel for your commitment to the truth, American values, and of course, our Constitution.
Thank you. Ms. Martinez.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Before I begin, I would like to take a moment to express my gratitude. Thank you, Chairman, for giving me the opportunity to be here today, for taking the time to hear my testimony. I give thanks to God. He has been a constant presence in my life and the source of my strength. Without him, I wouldn't be here standing. I am a living testimony of his grace. Sincerely, thank you everyone who has kept me in their thoughts and prayers and who has supported me since day one. From the parents at my school to my neighbors, to my family and friends, strangers near and far, from Mexico to Colombia, thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Esto es para toda mi gente inmigrante. My name is Marimar Martinez. I am a first-generation Mexican-American. As a survivor of this administration actions, as an advocate for those who do not have a voice, those that are pleading for justice, living in fear, and those who are asking for meaningful change and accountability. I come from a beautiful family full of immigrants. I am proud of my roots. I am born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, where I learned the values of resilience, community, respect, love, and hope. Those lessons have shaped me since childhood and continue to guide me through my adult life. On October 4, 2025, those values were tested when my life was nearly taken by my own government. This testimony is my attempt to give voice to an experience that we struggle to hold, but silence cannot justify. On Saturday, October 4, 2025, I woke up tired, but committed to doing the fall cleaning. I promised myself I would do that day. After 2 hours, I had successfully filled an entire bag of good quality clothes and shoes I wanted to take to donate to my local church. After a quick shower and a cup of coffee, I put the bag of clothes in the back of my car and headed towards the church. As I was getting close to the church, I noticed a SUV that appeared to be similar to the Border Patrol vehicles that had been invading our Hispanic neighborhood. In the previous week, I got a quiet but firm sense that something wasn't right. As I passed the vehicle, I noticed an overlight in the front windshield, no front plates as required in Illinois, and an out-of-state license plate in the back. I then noticed a uniformed Border Patrol agent in the vehicle. As a 30-year-old USA citizen with no criminal history, I believed that I had nothing to worry about, but I was concerned for my friends, neighbors, based on the well-publicized incidents involving Border Patrol agents in our community over the past few weeks, arresting anyone with brown skin for no legitimate law enforcement reasons. For the next 15 to 20 minutes, I followed these Border Patrol agents through my neighborhood, honking my horn, shouting out "La Migra" to warn my neighbors about the presence of these agents who have been terrorizing our community over the past few weeks. As I did this, my neighbors standing on the porches and sidewalks joined in on this spontaneous life alert system and began setting off their car alarms to warn other neighbors. As the Border Patrol vehicle turned on Kedzie Avenue, I continued to beat my horn and warn my community. As we approached the intersection of 39th and Kedzie, my vehicle was 2 to 3 feet to the left of the Border Patrol vehicle. He started to swerve into my lane as he was driving. I made eye contact with the driver of the Border Patrol vehicle and watched as he turned the steering wheel once again to his left and sideswept my vehicle. I immediately froze, slammed on the brakes, and stopped my car. The Border Patrol vehicle stopped just 1 to 2 car lengths ahead of me. It seemed like time stopped. I knew from watching the news coverage of other Border Patrol encounters in Chicago that I was in danger. I watched the vehicle of Border Patrol agent killing Silverio Villegas Gonzalez just 3 weeks prior. I knew I had to get to safety before I was dragged from my car and likely beaten or killed. I drove forward and went around the Border Patrol agents, who jumped out of his car and pointed his gun at me. I moved to the far left lane, striking the curb on the far left side of Kedzie. The next thing I knew, I felt a burning sensation in my arms, legs, and that I had been shot by pepper balls, which I also seen these agents fire at people in our community. As I continued to drive past the Border Patrol agents, I could hear my back passenger window shatter, and I felt bullets continue to pierce my body. As I attempted to drive to a safe location, I began to feel lightheaded. I looked down and I noticed blood gushing out of my arms and legs, and I realized I'd been shot multiple times. As I became lightheaded, I became worried I would pass out and endanger other drivers on the road. I managed to drive a mile from where the incident happened, and I pulled into a parking lot of a mechanic shop, and I called 911. I told the 911 operator that Border Patrol agents had just shot me and I needed help. I recall some of the workers from the shop sitting me down in a chair as I was waiting for help, but I was losing this battle. I saw my life flash before me and slowly began to think this was the end for me. And before losing consciousness, the next thing I remember is the EMT putting me on a stretcher, taking me to the hospital. At the hospital, I remember seeing multiple agents standing around, watching me be treated for my wounds. My arms, legs, and chest were all wrapped in bandages. I had 7 bullet holes in my body. I remember the agents rushing the nurses to finish up so they could take me with them. I still felt dizzy. I was not able to fully process what had happened to me. After being at the hospital for less than 3 hours, I was discharged from the hospital and took custody of the FBI. As we left the hospital, I was escorted out through the back in a wheelchair. I observed over dozens of Border Patrol agents waiting outside the hospital. One of them, one of the agents came out to me with his cell phone and took a photograph of me. It was the same agent who had previously kept coming in and out my room, and I had to repeatedly tell him to leave. I told him I did not consent for him to photograph me, but he did not care. It still haunts me that this agent has my photo on his phone. Was this the agent that shot me? Was this a trophy for him? I was next taken to the FBI building for further processing because they rushed me out of the hospital so quickly the blood started soaking through the bandages. I heard the agents talking about how the jail will not accept me in this current condition. I begged the agents to take me to a different hospital to give me proper medical care. Seeing me stand in a pool of my own blood, they were concerned about my health. One of the kind FBI agents brought a bag of additional bandages and worked quickly to pour more dressings over my bloody bandages. The FBI agents agreed to take me to a different hospital where my wounds were treated again, and I received additional medical care before being released back into law enforcement. Before being released back to law enforcement custody the following day. The agents took me from the second hospital to the federal detention center in downtown Chicago. I had never even had a parking ticket before, and now I was sitting in federal detention center just for being the victim in a minor traffic accident. Things were surreal. The news in the jail that evening had my story and was being called a domestic terrorist. They said I quote unquote rammed federal agents. I was in shock. If they only knew I was a month away from paying off my truck and I would never intentionally damage my vehicle, much less be crazy enough to hit a law enforcement. On Friday, I was teaching the young children at the Montessori school, and we were singing and dancing and getting ready for spooky season, preparing fall activities to do the following week. And on Saturday, my own government was calling me a domestic terrorist, and I was in federal detention centers with the bullet holes all over my body. I went to court on Monday, and I met my attorney, Christopher Parenti. He told me the government was trying to have me kept in jail until the trial because they claimed I was a danger to the community. I told them I had never been in trouble before and that the government claims were all wrong. I looked around the courtroom and I recognized over dozens mom and dads from the Montessori school, along with my boss and most of my family members who came to support me. I heard my attorney tell the judge that he had received over 50 letters from the moms and dads from the kids, all describing me as caring, loving, empathetic teacher, the exact opposite of a domestic terrorist. I heard the government describe me as being armed, even though I knew my gun was always inside my snap closed holster at the bottom of my purse, where I always kept it. The prosecutor told the judge there was no allegation that I have took the gun out my purse, but that did not stop DHS from continuing to say I was armed. During this incident, my attorney explained to the judge that I have a valid concealed carry license and that as a young woman living in Chicago, I carry a gun to protect me from danger. Thankfully, the judge quickly denied the government's detention request and released me on bond that day. Over the next 6 weeks, everything was surreal. I continued to work and teach my children, but knowing that I was under federal indictment and facing felony charges and potentially years in federal prison over a minor car accident where the other driver was at fault and attempted to kill me was terrifying. There was times where I did not believe this was all real, and then I would touch my bullet wounds and knew it was certainly real. Imagine waking up every morning, reliving this trauma. I would go to work each day to take care of my children. I knew my attorney was hard at work and exposing the lies of ICE. I knew the truth of what happened. The agent swerved into me. The agent shot me as I drove away from him. My attorney and his investigators found videos, evidence demonstrating the agents were lying. And I knew that no press release or tweet could ever trump the power of the truth. 2 weeks before the government dismissed all the charges in my case, I sat in federal court and watched from 20 feet away as the Border Patrol agent who attempted to kill me testified at a hearing. Agent Charles Exum. Charles Exum, my attempted executioner, was Charles Exum. I hope the government does not consider my use of his name here to be considered doxing. But I think it is important now that the truth is out of this case is exposed, that people know his name, Charles Exum. Exum was in the courtroom testifying, attempting to weave a coherent story explaining why he took his vehicle that I allegedly rammed out of the secure FBI evidence garage and drove it back to Maine, where the Border Patrol on-site mechanic was ordered to buff out the damages of the vehicle. This was all done prior to me or my attorney having the ability to examine the vehicle. Because he did this, no expert witness will ever be able to prove that it was Exum who swerved into my vehicle. Watching Charles Exum testify made me sick to my stomach. I grew up revering law enforcement. Prior to this incident, I had great respect for local and federal law enforcement. I knew every day they put their lives on the lines to keep me safe, to keep the kids at my school safe. And I thought to keep everyone in our community safe. But seeing what ICE was doing in our community at this time changed my view of law enforcement. This administration has misled the American people by claiming it will focus on the quote-unquote worst of the worst, while their actions show otherwise. Evidence from these operations, including statements made under oath, reveals a pattern of misleading the public. The government told the people they were targeting the worst of the worst, but their actions demonstrated otherwise. They are not targeting the worst of the worst. They are targeting individuals who fit a certain profile, who simply have a certain accent, a non-white skin color, just like me. This raises serious concerns about fairness, discrimination, and abuse of authority. The lack of accountability for these actions is deeply troubling. We, the people, are tired of this misconduct and demand transparency and accountability. Seeing Charles Exum sit in federal courtroom and lie about what happened that day completely eroded all my trust in law enforcement. I know just because Exum is not telling the truth that I cannot hold that against all other law enforcement. But to be honest, I don't know if I will ever view law enforcement the same way again. As my attorney showed the court the disgusting text messages Exum sent to his fellow Border Patrol buddies, literally bragging about how many times he shot me, I got sick to my stomach, seeing how a federal law enforcement officer would talk this way about shooting me, a woman who he swore into, was both eye-opening and heartbreaking. Thankfully, I survived Exum's attempted murder of me and was able to shine a light on his lies. But what about all the others who either did not survive or were not fortunate enough to have videos proving the agent's lies? I know deep down this was God's purpose in having me survive Exum 5 bullets. It was for this moment to happen so that the world could see these text messages, which were a window into the soul of the USA Border Patrol at this critical time in our country's history. 14 days after Exum was confronted with his own disgusting text messages, my attorney called me with the wonderful
All right, hey everybody. Welcome to the Jim Acosta Show. We're going to dip out of this hearing that is taking place up on Capitol Hill. Very important hearing being held by the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, Robert Garcia, and ranking member on a key subcommittee, Senator Richard Blumenthal, Connecticut. Both Democrats. The Democrats don't control the Congress, so they can't hold official hearings, but they can hold what are called shadow hearings, and they were doing that today on the extreme use of violence by ICE in Minneapolis and other cities around the country. The brothers of Renee Good, the mother who was killed, the U.S. citizen mother who was killed by ICE back in January. Her brothers testified during the hearing. One of those brothers said at one point that his daughter, Renee Good's niece, knows that their aunt was killed. And it was one of the more heartbreaking moments from that hearing. And obviously, when the Democrats have the majority again, they'll be able to hold actual hearings and hold officials accountable, but they weren't able to have top officials from the Department of Homeland Security at this shadow hearing, but they were able to have some of the people who have been directly affected by this, as you can see. So just wanted to wrap up that part of the special report. We're going to try to do more things like this for you guys heading into this new year. More hearings, more important discussions that are taking place here in Washington, the ones that we can cover and bring to you. We're going to do that. But let's jump into some other news, because there's a lot happening. As I like to say on this show, it's another day that ends in Y in Donald Trump's assault on American democracy. Just today, the White House was trying to play cleanup on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt tried to clarify, this according to the Associated Press, tried to clarify Trump's statements on Republicans, quote, taking over and nationalizing the elections. He made these comments on Dan Bongino's podcast, and obviously they caused immediate concern. And I've been talking about this for many weeks now and months, that Donald Trump is itching to meddle in the upcoming midterm elections. Let's talk about this with our friend Steve Schmidt. He is the head of Save America and a friend of the program. Steve, as always, great to have you on, man. Great to see you.
Good to see you, Tim. Good to see you.
Man, we got to dive in. I mean, to me, it's getting covered. I mean, I'll be honest, it's getting covered. I don't think it's getting covered enough. I would say right now it's probably the most undercovered story in the world, with Trump talking about how he wants to see Republican state officials take over and nationalize elections in 15 states. He said this after Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, was seen at an FBI raid at the Fulton County election office in Atlanta. She apparently put Trump on the phone with agents there. We have some of the video. Apparently, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution obtained body cam video from some of the Fulton County officers who were there. I mean, so this is not just Banana Republic stuff. It's just bananas, Steve.
It sure is. Well, one of the great frustrations I have, Jim, with the Democrats in this moment is the lack of effective response. And so here's the deal. And I want to be totally clear. That doesn't mean by every Democrat. Some Democrats, and we just saw the superb Robert Garcia. We've seen Jim Himes. We've seen Jamie Raskin. We've seen Alyssa Slotkin and others talk about. We've seen Mark Warner talk about this. Yep. Why the director of national intelligence was there. We saw the absurdism on the Sunday shows where Todd Blanche says, well, no, Tulsi Gabbard is an expert in election security. She's not. She's a whack job who should never have been confirmed to the position. She's a literal member of a cult. She has no expertise. And Donald Trump lost the election. There is no question about who won in 2016. Tragically, it was Donald Trump. There's no question who won in 2020. It was President Biden. And there's no question who won in 2024. And this is important because it's the keystone of our entire civilization that we, the people, get to choose. I placed a concession phone call for John McCain to Barack Obama through my friend David Plouffe. And it was an honor to do so, to play this small role in the continuity of the nation through the maintenance of the peaceful transition of power. And when I watch the congressional press corps, the White House press corps, it's like watching the New York Jets. It's like they're all on Quaaludes. You have an administration official today, like Carolyn Levitt, goes out there and says, well, you all know all the issues with voting integrity. Bullshit. We have clean elections in the United States, and the 2020 election and the 2024 elections are two of the cleanest presidential elections in history. Illegal aliens do not vote in U.S. elections. Only U.S. citizens do. This is all a Hitler-level lie. And Democratic leaders should walk out and say, here's the deal. The Constitution is clear. The states run the elections. But by all means, we'll talk about it again as soon as Texas and Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama and Oklahoma turn over their elections to the federal government. After all 5 of those states do that and they pass a law, you can come back and talk to us. Until then, we're going to talk about the Epstein files, or until then, we're going to talk about his corruption, or until then, we're going to talk about the compromise in national security as he sold the world's most sensitive chips to the Emiratis because they invested in his Bitcoin company. So it is all insanity.
It's all insanity. And I mean, you mentioned Caroline Levitt. She's the paid liar, taxpayer-funded liar on behalf of Donald Trump. Here's what she said. Let's play it. We can tear into it.
Tulsi Gabbard involved in a domestic law enforcement search in Georgia?
Tulsi Gabbard has been tapped by the President of the United States to oversee the sanctity and the security of our American elections. She's working directly
time out.
alongside
Right
the
there.
FBI Director, Kash Patel. This is a
Go ahead. I mean,
well,
we don't have to listen to the whole thing. I mean,
somebody should be interrupting her.
What's that? Go ahead.
Someone should be interrupting her right there.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. No, the thing that she says in this clip, she goes on to say that they're talking about this is a coordinated whole of government response is what she goes on to. But the thing, I'm glad you stopped it, because the way she was talking about Tulsi Gabbard there is insanity. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence. I mean, we know she's not really the top intelligence official. She is in name only. The fact that she has any role in this is straight out of a Stalinist nightmare.
She has zero statutory authority, zero, to be involved in an investigation of anything domestically. It's like being pulled over by a cop from Edmonton in the middle of Kansas. It's outside the jurisdiction. Greg Bovino, a bunch of emails have been reported today in the Daily Beast, is where I read it. And Bovino in emails is fighting with the ICE director Lyons. And Bovino, when you look at all of the atrocities that have gone on, it wasn't enough for him. He wanted to literally wage war in American cities. And when he's rebuked, he responds and he says, "You're not my boss. My boss is Corey Lewandowski." Corey Lewandowski is an unpaid special government employee who is banging the Homeland Security Secretary on taxpayer jets,
reportedly,
in taxpayer housing, reportedly. They can sue me, don't sue Jim, right? And he has no statutory authority. He has not been confirmed. He has not even been appointed.
Well, and Greg Bovino was also reported on a recent conference call disparaging the Jewish faith. He was that has been reported too. And so he walks around dressed like a Nazi. He makes disparaging comments about Jewish people, Steve, I'm old enough to remember when, people were chastised and perhaps rightly so for comparing people to Nazis. I mean, typically in American political life and journalism, so on, you're not supposed to compare people to Nazis. It's not really nice, not a nice thing to do. But I don't know. In Greg Bovino's case, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck and goose steps like a duck, it's a duck.
He's a Nazi.
Yeah.
Right down to the Himmler haircut. And
Unreal.
and Elon Musk delivered a Nazi salute on January 20th of 2025 3 times. It was denied, but his advisor celebrated that we now lived in a country where the Roman salute, he called it, could be delivered again. It was a Zeke Hail salute. And for those of us who are our age on this, you may remember in the movie Schindler's List, where the Ralph Fiennes character, who's playing Eamon Goth, who was the commandant of an Auschwitz subcamp called Plasno, is talking about the Jews as the chosen people as he's killing them. So it's a very Nazi-like, and I mean in the original sense. If you go back, it was routine in Nazi Germany, in the propaganda directed at the Jews, to mock them as the chosen people. That's what makes it so much more insidious that he did it.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. And I mean, this is just sort of the tip of the iceberg in terms of this. I mean, just bananas. They're out of control kind of language and rhetoric they've been using lately. I mean, the other thing that I'm glad you're on, and Stephen, you mentioned your Republican pedigree. One of the other things that you don't typically hear from Republicans these days is talk of disarming people and taking guns away from people. Donald Trump did this the other day, and apparently Jeanine Pirro, who has been mocked on Saturday Night Live as Judge Boxwine, she was on Fox talking about how you better not bring a gun to the nation's capital, better not bring a gun to D.C. Let's play this and let's talk about this.
And you bring a gun into the district, you mark my words, you're going to jail. I don't care if you have a license in another district, and I don't care if you're a law-abiding gun owner somewhere else. You bring a gun into this district, count on going to jail, and hope you get the gun back. And that makes all the difference.
Yeah,
Now,
it's amazing how
Steve, I'm not a big
accountability
gun guy.
works,
I mean, I think
if
people
they
have a Second Amendment right in this country. It's in the Constitution and so on. I also think that there should be reasonable gun safety laws in this country, and the Republicans have stopped that. I mean, it's in the NRA and so on. But Jeanine Pirro got herself in a shit ton of trouble with the NRA. They're going, and all the other gun rights groups are going after her. She's had to walk this back. But explain why this is. I think it's a disturbing thing to hear from the U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C., on top of what Trump was saying about guns the other day. It seems to me they only want the MAGA people to have guns in this country, not everybody else.
Well, I'm reticent to give any programming advice to Fox News, but maybe if I could suggest a breathalyzer test before the hits. But I digress. Yeah. I am a gun guy. Yeah. And a believer in the Second Amendment, and have a lot of guns. And my Canadian spouse, this was an issue for her, right? And I understand your position. Yeah. One of the issues, broadly speaking, in the Democratic Party, it's been tough for Democrats to talk about guns because the majority of Democrats couldn't tell you the difference between a rifle and a shotgun. And nobody's going to listen to anybody who doesn't know what they're talking about on anything, especially when you know something about it. The inarticulateness of Democrats has made it difficult to reach people like myself who own guns and agree with you that we ought to have some commonsensical measures passed to make the country safer. And one of those specifically is regarding getting military weapons into the hands of 19-year-olds. How do we stop that? How do we stop that AR-15? And so there's a law called the 1934, it's a 1934 law that in the time was called the Machine Gun Act. And that law made illegal a .45 caliber Thompson submachine gun. It made automatic weapons illegal. It made sawed-off shotguns
Right.
illegal. But it established the predicate. Could you make a category of weapon illegal under the Second Amendment? And the answer to that question is yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And
And have a Tommy gun. Yeah.
now Janine Pirro is saying something different. What she's saying is, we're coming for your guns. Is you don't have a right, whether it's with the box wine or whatever, a constitutional theory, but you don't have the right to bear arms. And if you come into the district with a licensed firearm, you'll be arrested. We've seen Donald Trump say that he doesn't believe in the Second Amendment. Now, I care a great deal about the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth and Fifth Amendments, the Eighth, 10th, and 14th, which are all under assault right now. But specific to the Second Amendment, this is going to do a lot of damage to MAGA in 2026. And I want to tell you what Save America is going to do about this.
Yeah.
We're going to have ads around the NRA convention, and we're going to put these ads up on Fox and Newsmax and OAN. And what the ads are going to show is Drunk Jeannie. Yeah, Drunk Jean. Is it Jeannie? Janine. Drunk
I think.
Janine. Drunk Janine talking about taking your guns, and we'll have the Trump quote. And then I'm going to use Charlton Heston in it, raising the rifle.
From my cold dead hands.
From my cold dead hands. And we're going to run that ad in the red states, and we're going to target gun owners, and we're going to call Donald Trump what he is, which is a gun grabber. And so as a former Republican consultant, I have a PhD in how to use this issue effectively, and we're going to use it very effectively against Donald Trump in all of these districts. And so if you're a Republican congressman out there in a district that Trump won by 10 or 12 points, know this: you are in danger. The tsunami's coming up over your roof line, and we're going at you on this gun issue. And Charlton Heston is going to be reincarnated by the Save America movement. He's coming back.
I never thought we would see Charlton Heston being used against Donald Trump, but
back in the ads, from my cold dead hands. And I'm going to actually use the speech that he gave to the NRA in 2000, and I'm going to change the word Gore to Trump and Pirro in it with a little AI manipulation, which I think is
the thing that concerns me is that they start the gun grabbing talk when Alex Preddy is carrying he had a license to carry it, legal,
Sure did.
Possession of a firearm on his body. He had it holstered when he was taken down and executed by those federal agents. And in this context, it's very disturbing. It seems to me that you don't see the political opposition as having Second Amendment protections in this country.
No,
2A for me, but not for thee, as the Chiron says.
Right. There are two things that are very important for everybody watching to understand. Alex Preddy had as much right to be armed in that moment as did the ICE agents who killed him. Period. Second, this whole idea that he went to a protest armed, which the indictment is, that was bad judgment. Minneapolis is under siege. That wasn't a protest. That was what was happening in the moment on a random block where he happened to be. Yeah. You can look at MAGA whack jobs kitted up in their full militia gears with their long rifles showing up, for example, at the Michigan State Capitol for a protest at a specific time and a specific place. That's not what happened in Minneapolis. Minneapolis has been turned into a war zone by ICE. And tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, when they hear a horn, when they hear a whistle, put themselves in harm's way, and they come outside to bear witness and create evidence that will be used one day to prosecute all those people. Yeah. That's what happened. while he was standing there on a street, legally armed, as was his constitutional right, he was gunned down, murdered, shot 10 times in the back, then smeared as a domestic terrorist. And then the gun-grabbing Trump administration came out and sent a message that if you're an American who doesn't like Donald Trump, or you're an American we decide on a whim, doesn't get the right to carry arms anymore, we're coming after you. That's
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah. No, there's no question about it. And the other piece of video that you might want to contemplate for an ad heading into the cycle, I mean, this just occurred to me, is Todd Blanche talking about Jeffrey Epstein, saying it's not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. I don't know if you've seen this,
Camera at the rallies.
but let's watch this.
Is there any chance that any of these individuals who partied with Epstein and engaged in, relations with minors will be prosecuted?
Well,
Any
look,
chance?
I'll never say no, and we will always investigate any evidence of misconduct. But as you know, it is not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein, and so as horrible as it's not a crime to email with Mr. Epstein. And some of these men may have done horrible things, and if we have evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you better believe we will. But it's also the kind of thing that the American people need to understand, that it isn't a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. It isn't a crime to have
Didn't look like that's all that was going on some of those photos. I mean, if the photos could speak, some of them look pretty bad.
That's right. And
Yeah, I mean,
unfortunately,
Steve, if
photos
Laura
can't
Ingraham
speak.
is
And so
having
we
to
need-
put Todd Blanche in his place, I mean, good for Laura Ingraham. I mean, I don't say this very often, but she at least said the obvious, which is these parties involved raping children. And Todd Blanche, he sounds like Donald Trump's defense lawyer there. I mean,
He's appalling. All I can say is that when we're going to be around to watch him be disbarred, and when that day comes, we should be on this together.
Yeah.
It won't be too many years from now, but it sure will happen.
Yeah.
Appalling.
It's appalling. It's just absolutely disgraceful. And the way, he and Bondi, the way that they have just distorted our system of justice in this country, distorted the notion of a politically independent Justice Department that is law enforcement and justice first and everything second. It's going to take years to undo the damage that they've done to this department, it seems to me.
I guess, like, if Bill Clinton famously said what the definition of is, I guess I'd say what the definition of party is. I think Todd Blanche is right. If you hung out in Central Park and smoked a joint with Jeffrey Epstein,
Sure.
no, that's not a crime. But if you were there when he was raping children, not so much. And let me just add that over at CBS and the Free Press, it's a journalistic qualification. Look at Dr. Peter Attia. And so Peter Attia, who's in awe of Jeffrey Epstein, this is the medical contributor. The medical contributor of CBS News was in an email exchange with Jeffrey Epstein where Attia and Epstein are talking about pussy. And they say, is it low carb, but the debate between the two men is if it's gluten free. And so you have Dr. Peter Attia, the CBS News medical contributor, who I suppose will get on and talk about women's health, is a guy who's in the Epstein file saying that, one of the hardest things about being friends with you, Jeffrey, is I can't tell everybody that what goes on when I'm with you. And so how sick is that? How sick?
It's sick. And apparently Barry Weiss was reported as saying privately that she didn't want to throw this guy overboard because she didn't want to be seen as yielding to cancel culture and so on.
Yeah.
How about just have a soul? How about have some journalistic integrity?
She has no integrity.
Yeah.
And we just discovered she has no decency.
No decency.
No decency. Jim, can I just say one last thing?
One last thing, please.
In the lead up, we're watching that video of the young woman who was shot 5 times with 7 holes. Charles Exum, the ICE agent, in the email she referenced to his fellow ICE colleagues saying shot her 5 times, 7 holes. I also want Charles Exum to understand, he lives in Maine, that there will be ads up, as there will be over Jonathan Ross, where they live, on their streets, in their towns, where their families are, that indict them for their crimes in the court of public opinion and remind the people of who lives next door to them. That's going to happen. I'm going to do that out of the Save America movement, and I'm not afraid, and that's not doxing. Saying these people's names out loud is not doxing, despite whatever Pam Bondi or Todd Blanche's and the pedophile protectors and Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski's delusions may tell them.
Yeah.
We have a right to know who they are because they work for us, period.
That's right. And I, that here, we brought it to everybody live before coming on with you, Steve, because I just thought, we thought this was very important to do as a public service. And, shame on the Republicans for not having real hearings on this.
Shame on.
And that's just good government. And you're not even meeting that bar. You're just totally carrying Trump's water. And good on Robert Garcia, good on Richard Blumenthal for holding that hearing so we can hear from the brothers of Renee Good. One of those brothers said that their child says, that they know their aunt is dead and that she was killed. And I mean, for little kids to know this and to feel that in this world, it's absolutely disgusting and it's absolutely appalling. Steve, thank you very much for joining us today. Really
Jim,
good to see you.
Congratulations on the 1-year anniversary of the Jim Acosta show. I know that I'm just one of a lot of people out across the country who are very, very grateful for you and the work that your team does. Thank you.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate it. You're a big part of it too. Thanks for being a friend of the program, Steve. Good to see you.
Take care.
Thank
Jim.
you. All right. Well, and Steve was talking about I mean, it's just one day after another of outrages when it comes to what ICE has been doing to this country. Just waging a campaign of violence across this country. And people have hit the boiling point, just ordinary citizens who are out on the streets. And sometimes they walk out of their houses and they see ICE in their front yard and just want to know what the hell is going on in this country. Not political activists, not somebody who makes it their cause to go around and follow ICE around. Although I don't second guess that. If people want to do that, that's their constitutional right to observe what they're doing and record it and document it and so on. But they're regular folks who are speaking out. And one gentleman in particular that I've had my eye on for a few weeks now, and let's bring him in if we can. If he's standing by, let's do it. It is Chris. He's known as Minnesota Angry Man. And let's see, do we have him standing by live? Do we have him? Can we bring him in? Team, do we have Chris Ostrushko standing by? Is Chris Ostrushko standing by? We might be having some technical problems. Is Chris standing by? He's not here yet. He's not here yet. Okay. Well, all right. Well, let's play the video of Chris. We may have to get back to him in a minute, but let's play the video of Chris out on the streets. You might remember this. This was a few
This
weeks
is
ago.
nuts. This is fucking, and you're right in the middle of this shit. What the fuck is going on, dude? This is insane.
Have you ever gone out to these sort of things before?
Never. I've never protested in my life. My brother's here. He does it all the time. I've never. Like I said, I'm far enough away, but close enough, and I sit in my cushy house and look at shit and get mad, and they're just trying to fucking scare people, and but why shoot people? You know what really pisses me off is the fact that they detain people, cuff them, and then still beat the shit out of them. They tell you it's immigrants, only immigrants. It's fucking anybody. I have friends that got detained and all they were doing was fucking driving home from work. What the fuck?
Sounds like you don't fit the definition of the...
No, and I'm not fucking paid to be here like everybody fucking says. What the fuck is that? I gotta work in the goddamn morning, just like everybody else.
All right, let's bring in Chris now. Chris is standing by. Chris, I think he's there. He is. Chris, good to see you, my man.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us. Chris, can you hear me?
I can. Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Sound great. You're known as Minnesota Angry Man. We just played the video that made you famous there. And do I have it right? Is it Ostrushko? Help me pronounce the last name there.
No, you got it perfect. That's
I got it perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us the story about that video, because that I think just went viral because it captured what everybody was feeling in that moment. And I sort of feel like it was the beginning of this wave of outrage that has been building and then really went through the roof with the killing of Alex Preddy and has been sustained since then. And it's putting a lot of pressure on the politicians to do something.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, that video, I actually turned down that reporter. It was Zach from Status Quo. He was trying to interview me. We were out at the second shooting of the Venezuelan gentleman.
Right.
And yeah, so we were under fire, tear gas, less than lethal rounds, stuff like that. So I was not a very happy camper at the moment, to say the least. That's why I sounded like a drunken sailor. But yeah, I think the message resonated with so many people. I never thought something like that would happen, to be honest.
Yeah. And what was the response? I mean, this thing went viral. You were being interviewed all over the place. What were you hearing from people? Were people basically saying to you like, man, this is exactly how I feel?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what's going on. It's almost started a movement. It's when I go out, I'm almost treated like a celebrity, even though I'm just a normal guy. But the response has been overwhelmingly positive, especially here in Minnesota. We're getting a lot of people from out of town that actually come in because they saw the video. I know that I was at Whipple last weekend, and I had more than 10 people come up to me and they wanted to give me a hug. A guy from Maryland, a woman from Michigan drove in, another woman from Kentucky quit her job as a nurse to come up here and help out. And they're saying this because they saw the video, and it gave them, the gumption to come up here to help out with what's going on up here.
And what is life like day to day in Minneapolis, in your community, in your neighborhood? What's it been like?
Well, ICE is still out and about for sure. And actually, I think they've almost picked up, even though they've done it in a more quiet aspect now. They're not as egregious as they were, but they're still out and about. They're all over the place, and they're still doing the same stuff. It's just not as open, or like I say, as egregious as it was under Bovino. Out where I live is a quiet suburb area, and they're out here. So, but in our neighborhood, they don't. It's not as aggressive, I should say. As you get closer to the city, it's a lot more concentrated. So there's a lot more going on.
Yeah, and I think that we have a new video that came out today. This was a video that I think our pal Aaron Rupar put up, and it shows ICE drawing their guns, pulling out their guns on a lady or somebody in their car. Let's watch this.
They're pointing handguns at the drivers in the vehicle right now. Hey, get back. You guys need to stay back. You can record, but you gotta be back. Get out. Hey, open your fucking door. I need you to back up a little bit more. Hey, get back.
And they're just pulling out their guns, saying, open the fucking door, just telling people what to do. I mean, if they stop you, it's like you have no rights. You just have to go along with it. And I mean, it just seems like, what the hell's going on in Minneapolis?
I mean, this is the scene that's going on every single day. It's no joke. This is what's going on, and it's absolutely insane. They call the peaceful protesters or the observers, we're the supposedly domestic terrorists, but the actual terrorists, by definition, are these agents. And I want to change the narrative. Everybody says ICE out, ICE out. It's got to be abolish ICE, because this is actually Trump's personal military. Our own military takes an oath to the Constitution, and they don't, he's not quite sure if they're going to follow every single thing he says, whereas these guys work specifically for him, and it shows every day out here on the streets.
Yeah. I mean, and it's the same stuff that you see almost every time. It's in that video we were just showing a few moments ago. They have masks. A lot of times they don't have their names on their jackets and what they're wearing. They're on unmarked vehicles. I mean, I've been in DC a long time. I've been around a lot of law enforcement people over the years. Most of the time, a cop car has the insignia on it, or the officer has a badge or a patch or a name tag. And I think you're absolutely right. They act like a secret police force, it seems to me.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
They don't answer anybody but Donald Trump or some of his other minions like Bovino or Tom Holman. They don't answer to anybody else. Even the police force here can't tell them what to do. It's absolutely insane that they're the actual terrorists, like I say, by definition.
And when they take out Greg Bovino, and first of all, the way he was walking around out there with the Nazi uniforms and everything, he looks like he's out of the 1930s or something. It's nuts. And then Tom Homan they put Tom Homan as. Does that give you any more confidence, any peace of mind?
No, no. In fact, he's almost worse. He's just better spoken. He's more well spoken, and and he has some sort of clout because he did work for Obama for a little while. But other than that, no, the feeling around here is that it's the same old, same old. It's just like I say, it's not as out in the open. Even though like that video shows it's quite out in the open, but it's a little more quiet. So unless you're an observer and you're following these guys around, you're not going to see that all the time. Plus, they're trying to do more in the early morning when people would go to work. So you're not seeing it as much as it was under Bovino. And Bovino was all right in your face all day, every day.
Yeah. And just to go back to the video that you were in, and it was on the streets that night in your neighborhood, and there's smoke everywhere. I guess it was tear gas. It looked like if we could show a little bit of that, it looked like a damn war zone going on out there that night.
Yeah, it was absolutely. It was a war zone.
Yeah.
And the administration just lies about every single thing so they can get public approval. But like that night, nobody beat that agent. The Venezuelan gentleman, his car got hit by the agents. It carabined into another car, and then they busted into his house when he ran into his house to protect his family. They broke into his house and shot him in front of his wife and his children. So, I mean, that's the type of stuff. Like, people got to get the truth out. And I appreciate all the reporters and stuff that are coming to town, because there are a lot of them that are trying to get the truth out. But like CBS comes to town and they park their butt out at Whipple, and they're off in the distance. And what was happening was every time they showed up and started recording, it was like a propaganda video. The ICE agents would come out and line up 3 deep. There'd be like 90 of them, and they'd split in the middle like stormtroopers. Well, Bovino would come out the middle, almost like a Darth Vader type thing. It was absolutely insane. And every time that would happen, with my video going out and giving people that extra oomph to come out and protest, what would happen was all these people that weren't expecting that, these guys would come rush and start shooting them with tear gas and pepper spray and less than lethal rounds. And these are like people that aren't normally used to protesting, kind of like myself. I mean, like I said in the video, I just sat on my couch and got mad all the time. And my wife finally said, you know what, you got to go out and do something. And actually that took place in North Minneapolis. I live in Prior Lake, which is 45 minutes away from there. So
oh, wow. Okay.
I really had no business being up there, but I care about the community. And like I say, the community as a whole. And the one thing that I've noticed through this whole thing, I think Donald thought that this would be like a George Floyd episode where people would loot and you'd see stuff on fire and all this craziness would come. But the problem is the protesters at that time were the peaceful people. It was his goon squad that came in that created the muck, all the havoc that you saw going around. But now those guys all work for ICE. So who's going to come in and do what they were doing at the time? They don't, he doesn't have all these extra guys, all these white supremacists and stuff that are running around, because they all work for him now.
Yeah.
But like I say, it actually worked in the opposite. The community's really come together. It's actually stronger than it's ever been that I've ever seen. And it's people from all walks of life. It doesn't matter, where you came from, how you talk. Everybody's coming together and working towards a greater good, which is, humanity. For me, this is a humanitarian crisis.
No, it really is. And the thing that, Chris, that you said in that video that went viral that I thought really stood out to me is you said, I'm not one of these paid agitators. I'm not one of these paid protesters. I'm not like a protester type of person. I'm just a regular guy. And I think that's how a lot of people are out there. I think that's how just about everybody is out there. That the White House, Trump, the people in power, they wanted to seem like their supporters that you guys are just a bunch of agitators out there. And that's just not the case. They're just saying that to create a smokescreen.
Right. I know we have a protest coming up this Friday at 2:00 downtown Minneapolis again. Was that February 6th, I believe?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all peaceful people. It's residents of the state of Minnesota. So I know that they're trying to do a mega protest on Saturday, but like I talked to everybody around, people that kind of lean that direction, and I don't know of one person that's going to show up to that protest. So, Donald Trump, he's always talking about a mirror of himself. So when he says somebody else is doing something, as you know, it's actually he that's doing what he claims other people are doing. So
That's it.
you know, he's going to have these guys come in, and I'm sure they're going to have a few hundred or something, and they'll probably get drowned out by a counter protest, kind of like when what's his name, that white supremacist that came in a few weeks ago to Minnesota, and there were only 10 of them, and then
Didn't work out.
They got drowned out by the counter protest. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Chris, great to talk to you. Really appreciate you coming on. Minnesota Angry Man. I like that handle. It seems to fit on you, man. Good for you. Good for speaking out. Good for people getting fired up after what you said. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate
You got it. All right, let's do it again. See you, Chris. Thanks a lot. You know, and that's what it's all about. It's about citizens caring about their community, going out there, and making it clear that, you know, their rights aren't going to be violated, that their neighbors aren't going to be abused in this fashion. And so good for people like Chris getting out there and getting a little fired up, getting a little angry. I like to see that. I like to see more of it. Want to switch gears now and talk about something very different, but we did talk about it on yesterday's show, and that is, did the Melania movie really end up being this giant blockbuster that people were talking about? Remember, did you guys see some of this conversation over the weekend? Wow, Melania, it's just doing great. Wow, it's just a force to be reckoned with, and so on. Let's bring somebody who might be able to shed some light on this. Matt Bellany with Puck. Matt, great to see you. It's been a while. I guess the last time we talked, it was my old show. This is the new show. We're in independent media now, and we should talk about Don too. Speaking of independent media. Uh-oh. Hang on. I don't hear you, Matt. Stand by. Might need to click the unmute button. No. Don't have you. Let's see. Matt, you might have to hop out, hop back in. This has been a thing that's been happening, but that's all right. Don't have you now. Nope. See if you X out and then hop back in. And then that usually tends to, close the circuit there. We'll bring Matt back in here and talk to him in just a second here. This happens, folks. Plus, we've been on for the last hour and 40 minutes because of the coverage that we had in the last hour. But we're going to bring Matt back in. But yes, the reports have been that the Melania movie made some $7 million over the weekend. And Matt over at Puck has been reporting on this. Others over at Puck have been reporting on this. Matt, how about now?
Hello.
There you are. Hey, Matt, how you doing? Good to see you, man.
Doing very well. I was saying that the other night at a Grammys party on Thursday, I bumped into Don Lemon and we were talking, and I literally made the joke. I'm like, so what's going on? Are you going to get arrested or something? He's like, I don't know. You know, who knows what's going on? And literally,
wow,
right after the party, he's arrested.
That's incredible. So it was that night.
Yeah.
Holy Toledo. And then he was on with Kimmel last night, which I was so happy to see. And he looks great. He sounds great.
Yeah.
What is your take
the
on
charges are silly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And hopefully this will end up being the best thing that happens to him in terms of raising awareness about his show and kind of what he's doing. These things can kind of boomerang on people.
No, I mean, when they took my press pass away during the first Trump administration, it did shine a light on press issues and what Trump was doing going after the press and so on. I think it helped at the end of the day, our cause a little bit. But you can see he's still at it and he's holding a grudge and going after people he doesn't like Don. But Matt, I also wanted to talk to you about, because to me, it sort of fits into this, are we living in an era of basically government propaganda? Are we living in an era where, these big tech companies are bending the knee and spending millions of dollars to curry favor with the administration? And that's basically what Jeff Bezos did, right? And getting this Melania documentary out there to the tune of what, $75 million by the time.
Yeah, it was a $40 million acquisition price for the Melania documentary and a related docuseries that's going to appear on Prime Video, plus $35 million to market and release the movie. Both of those numbers are far in excess of what the typical documentary receives, even documentaries that are released in theaters, most of them are not these days. So pretty clearly some, extracurricular padding of that fee. And remember, it's not just Jeff Bezos. Bezos doesn't technically run Amazon anymore. It's Andy Jassy, the CEO. It's Mike Hopkins, who runs the entertainment group there. All of them had to sign off on this to make this deal happen.
And do we know what happens to that 75? I guess the 40 million to acquire it, that just went straight to Donald and Melania Trump. Was that
my understanding? This is not confirmed. I have read this and I have talked to people about this. My understanding is that $30 million went to the Trumps. $5 million was used for production costs for the project, and $5 million went to Brett Ratner, the director, and some other producers and participants on it.
Yeah,
so a big check there.
Big check, not a bad check. And Matt, you did some reporting on what may explain the box office returns that we saw reported from over the weekend, $7 million. It looked like, it seemed to me that, okay, maybe there's a lot of just people who are Trump supporters and wanted to go out there and they went to go see it. And it may be a one weekend thing, who knows? But what's your sense of it? Because one of the things I also heard, and this was from a lot of people, and perhaps it's just speculation, was it's sort of like what happens in the book world where you have the bulk sales to try to pad the book sale, receipts. What's your sense of it?
Yeah, I don't want to overstate that because clearly this film did have an audience. I mean, these are independent tracking services that look at the numbers from around the country, and the various theater chains report back. And they reported back that these theaters were filled with people. The exit scores on the film were very strong. It got an A on the Cinema Score rating, which is a survey that's done on opening night, and people grade the movie. It got very high on the definite recommend. So people that saw this movie liked it. It did $7-something million. The theaters that over-indexed, which means they primarily drove the box office, were largely in the South, largely outside of the major cities, Florida markets, Nashville, Houston, Dallas, Maricopa County, big strongholds for Trump supporters. And the demos on it were about 75% over 55, over 70% female. So this is largely over 55 women, and about 75% white people. So older white women drove this movie. And there's an audience there. So maybe if you don't know anybody that saw this movie, there are lots of people who did. Now, having said that, we did also see that there was some kind of suspicious activity, and it's not like it's illegal. You can buy as many movie tickets as you want for any movie, and it's not improper. But when the president is bragging about his wife's box office, it's worth looking at, seeing whether there was some other shenanigans going on. There was a former leader of the White House Faith Council who sent around an email saying, please support our First Lady. Here's a website where you can buy bulk tickets. There was some evidence that there was tickets that were bought in bulk and given away to senior citizens' homes and to Republican groups saying, go see this movie. Not unlike what happens often with faith-based movies, where there will be supporters of religious organizations that will buy a lot of tickets and give them out to church groups so they can go see the film. We don't have actual numbers, but one fact that was interesting was that the Regal chain, which typically it's the second largest chain in the country after AMC, the Regal chain typically has about 15% of ticket sales for given titles. It showed about 21% for this movie. Now, that could be a reflection of the fact that Regal tends to over-index in rural areas and in Florida and in Orange County, California, and in Nashville. It could also mean that there were some bulk purchases made via Regal that allowed them to get that higher market share. And we don't know whether these people actually showed up to the movie or not, but it could mean that. Now, I don't have evidence saying it did, but it could mean that.
So it could be a combination of all of these things. It could be that.
Yeah, I think it is.
A lot of people in MAGA world said, you know what, the media is going after this thing. Let's go support our First Lady. And because I saw there were anecdotal pictures put on social media of like a bunch of ladies all wearing a Melania dress, which I think there were people saying that the Melania dress sort of looked like the redacted Epstein files, but that's just, I'm sure, Matt, you saw some of that discourse as well.
Sure. And it's interesting. The theater chains reported a spike in ticket sales after some of the pictures started emerging of the lack of ticket sales, where people in some of these big cities were going to the AMC website and looking at the availability for Friday night screenings and taking screenshots of the empty theaters and the full availability. And they saw a ticket upswing then because people were seeing that and saying, no, I want to support this movie. I'm going to buy a ticket. Also, they did a big premiere in DC on Thursday night, and the president was there talking about the movie. So that helped juice ticket sales. Regal actually put the tickets on sale before some of the other chains. So that could explain why they got a spike from the diehards that wanted to see this movie right when it became available and reserve their seats for that. But
are you a movie reviewer? Are you a movie reviewer of sorts? Are you a lover of the cinema like I am? I mean, it seems to me that
I love movies. I'm not a critic. My taste is pretty bad.
Have you seen this?
I have not seen this movie. Although apparently I am in it.
Interesting.
I've been told by many friends of mine in the media who did go see it. Some of the jokes were that half the people at the theaters in New York City were people in the media who were either writing about the movie or just wanted to tell everybody that they saw it. Apparently there's a scene in the movie because I broke the news of the $40 million purchase price in January of last year. And it was while they were filming Melania for this movie. So there's a scene where her press team gets an inquiry from me because I reach out to everyone. I said, can you confirm? And they're debating whether to engage with me on the $40 million purchase price. And I don't want to spoil anything here, but they did not end up engaging with me on the $40 million purchase price. I had to confirm that elsewhere. But it was kind of funny to see that I was in the movie.
But it seems to me, and I haven't seen it, and so maybe I'm making an unfair characterization, but it seems to me, if I may be so bold as to extrapolate from some of the reviews that I've read, that this is a sort of glossy propaganda flick.
Oh, yeah, it's an infomercial.
It's an infomercial.
Yeah, which everybody kind of knew it would be. And what else did you expect? Melania is a producer on the movie. And, what are you going to do? Make an unvarnished portrait of the president's wife when the president...
Because that could be a good movie.
Oh, I mean, the real Melania movie would be amazing.
Yes.
But, this is... And she's not alone. In fairness, lots of celebrities do vanity documentaries where they get paid a lot of money to participate. And it's not really there
have been several of those
want to
lately.
See. And the streamers will pay a lot of money for those. They won't pay $40 million, but a lot of musicians have gotten big paydays to do this. Billie Eilish, Taylor Swift, a lot of them do this. And some of them could be good. Like the Beckham show on Netflix was pretty good. That was an example of them turning themselves over to a filmmaker. That was a little bit more of a documentary, sort of a journalistic enterprise. But Melania is not alone in doing this. She just was able to leverage her husband into getting a massive payday for this.
But maybe not the best timing that Brett Ratner, the director of the film, who has had allegations of misconduct leveled against him, is showing up in the Epstein files.
He says that was his fiance. Did you see him on Piers Morgan? Yeah, Piers asked him about this. He's pictured with a very young-looking woman and Jeffrey Epstein, and he said that was his fiance at the time. Although he wouldn't name her, he did not want to name who that was.
Okay,
but you know what?
We'll give him his due then. All right. Well,
sure.
Mac,
the funny thing is that the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie, the audience score is a 99%.
I saw this.
And the critic score was a 6%. Now, Rotten Tomatoes claims that is not the widest discrepancy in the history of Rotten Tomatoes. I have not found the movie that beats it, but clearly Rotten Tomatoes was getting review bombed by people who wanted the Trumps to see the 99%.
That was the other. I'm glad you brought that up because I looked at this over the weekend and I said it's clear that they're bots. I mean, they must have a bot farm that rivals Putin's.
No, they don't have to be bots. They could just be super fans that go on there, and it happens a lot. it happens a lot with like Marvel movies and stuff where people will just go on and they, you know, in their communities on Reddit, they'll say, oh, let's just go and bomb the Rotten Tomatoes score. And
People want to distort the score one way or the other.
Exactly. You want to show support. So they've tried to, at Rotten Tomatoes, they've tried to prevent it, but it's really tough to do that. So yeah, listen, they got their 99%. I want to know the 1% that made it through.
No kidding. I have to say that is something else. But I will say, for a documentary, it doesn't seem to, you know, shed a whole lot of light on the First Lady of the United States.
I haven't seen it, but the critics certainly say they didn't learn much from it.
Yeah. We learned
But
that.
I guess that's what people wanted. You know, they just want to go and celebrate her. And if that's a night out at the movies, then more power to them.
Yeah. All right. Well, Matt, great to see you as always. Thanks so much. Great
Yeah, no
stuff.
problem.
Great reporting. Appreciate it. Thank you. That's
Bye-bye.
Matt. And Matt mentioned the premiere for the Melania movie, which was at the Kennedy Center. Did you hear this? This was at the Kennedy Center the other day. And this was before Donald Trump decided he was going to close the Kennedy Center. And we were talking about this on the program yesterday, and I had a chance last night to chat with an official in the arts community who is close to the Kennedy Center. I think I'll describe it in that fashion because I want to protect my sources. And as I was saying on the show yesterday about my intense concern that Donald Trump will just go and bulldoze and demolish the Kennedy Center, this person that I was speaking with said that that is a fear that people in the arts community have right now about the Kennedy Center, that Donald Trump is going to do that over the summer when they shut it down. And so to me, this is a red alert for members of Congress, people in the historic preservation community, for the Kennedy family. I'm sure there are conversations happening right now to figure out a way to save the Kennedy Center. But Donald Trump is not finished defacing our nation's capital. I want to show you some other pictures. This came out of the Washington Post. Have you heard about this giant arch that Donald Trump wants to build in Washington, D.C.? Here it is right here, the Independence Arch. He wants it to be 250 feet. I just want to make sure people are focusing in on this stuff. There's a lot of important stuff happening right now, like meddling in our elections, Epstein files, what's happening with ICE and so on. We've covered that stuff. But I just want to say, as a native of the Washington, D.C. area, that the president of the United States should not be able to deface the nation's capital without anybody saying anything. And look at this so-called Independence Arch, which really is a monument to himself, is supposed to be 250 feet tall. Look at the U.S. Capitol right next to it. The U.S. Capitol is 288 feet tall. This arch that he wants to build would dwarf the Lincoln Memorial, and it would be almost as tall as the United States Capitol. And I just want to say that to anybody who has any position of authority in Washington, D.C., this madman needs to be stopped. He's already bulldozed the East Wing of the White House. He lied and he said that it wasn't going to touch that. Remember, the ballroom construction was not going to touch the existing White House. He lied and they knocked down the East Wing of the White House. I flew over it the other day as I was flying out of D.C. It looks like a giant hole in the ground right now that's covered with snow and ice, which I could have told you is going to happen. You can't build federal buildings quickly and on the cheap like Donald Trump does. You can't put up a bunch of cheap gold-plated shit everywhere and make a building out of it. That's not how construction works. And he should know that, having worked in real estate, but usually he just slaps his name on things, as we know. And so if he's going to, as some people fear in Washington, bulldoze the Kennedy Center, and keep in mind, he was asked about this. I'm not even going to play it because I can't play his lies all the time. I can't play him all the time. But he lied and said that they're not going to bulldoze the Kennedy Center. Bullshit. The only way I would ever believe Donald Trump actually, there is no way to believe Donald Trump. there is no way to believe Donald Trump. But the only way I think I might possibly be able to believe him is if he was hooked up to like 100 lie detectors all at the same time. And they were being fed into the same supercomputer powered by AI. We need a super lie detector to determine whether or not Donald Trump is telling the truth. But he lied and said, oh, no, we're not going to demolish the Kennedy Center. Baloney. Bullshit. When you listen to what he is saying about what he wants to do to the Kennedy Center, there is undoubtedly going to be heavy construction taking place at what is supposed to be a memorial to a slain president, John F. Kennedy, a real president of the United States. And so make no mistake, when Donald Trump is talking about building this monstrosity of an arch here in Washington, D.C., we need to ask the question. We need to ask the question, what the hell is going on here? What the hell is going on with the President of the United States? At what point are we going to have a serious conversation about the 25th Amendment? At what point are we going to have a serious conversation about the 25th Amendment? The President of the United States is careening from one demolition and construction project to another here in our nation's capital. You can see Abe Lincoln over my shoulder with his doing the face palm. We're all doing that right now, yes. But do we really want an arch that's 250 feet tall to dwarf I'm pointing to the wrong direction, Abe Lincoln's memorial? Do we really want to do that in this country? And it seems to me that future generations, if we allow this to happen, if we allow this mad king to do this, if we allow Donald Trump to deface our nation's capital and vandalize our nation's capital and bulldoze portions of our nation's capital, future generations will look at us and rightly say, shame on you. Shame on all of you who allowed this to happen. And so I know the Speaker of the House barely has a soul left, if there's one anymore. The Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, I've covered Washington for a long time. I thought that he was a real person. Is John Thune going to do anything? He is the Senate Majority Leader. Is he going to do anything to stop Donald Trump from knocking down the Kennedy Center? Is he going to do anything to stop Donald Trump from building this monstrosity of a national arch? Whatever it is that he's calling it, it's an absolute monstrosity. And these are things that, to me, yeah, are you there, John Thune? These are things that say to me that the President of the United States is in the throes of a mental breakdown. He's ordering Tulsi Gabbard to go down to Fulton County, Georgia, and send in the FBI into an election center. I mean, we were showing that video at the top of the show. He's got Tulsi Gabbard on the phone with the FBI agents conducting all of this. And he's chasing the demons in his mind from losing the 2020 election. That's what he's doing there. He's going on Dan Bongino's show and saying ridiculous things like that he won the Minnesota, won Minnesota in 3 straight presidential elections. That's not true. It didn't happen, obviously. He's out of his damn mind. He's wrecked the White House by demolishing the East Wing. It's now buried in snow and ice, an empty construction site. I mean, that's a debacle that nobody saw coming and didn't try to stop it. But we have the ability to stop the madman from doing things to make matters worse. We can stop him from demolishing the Kennedy Center. We can stop him from building this crazy ass arch that he wants to build here in Washington, D.C. This is not a dictatorship, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a dictatorship. It's supposed to be a democracy. And there are supposed to be 3 branches of government. Where are the other 2 branches of government to rein in the President of the United States, our mad king, Donald Trump? The 25th Amendment. Is anybody going to have this conversation? Is anybody going to talk about it? We all think it's batshit crazy looking at this from the outside, looking in. Imagine how bananas it is on the inside right now. You know, I was telling the story last night. I was at an event last night, and I was telling the story to some folks. When I was covering the first administration, there were all these stories that would come out. I covered some of them about the crazy things that Donald Trump would say and do behind closed doors. And he had officials, people like John Kelly and so on, who would tell him, you know, don't say those things in public. Don't do these things in public. Just say them to us, and we'll talk you out of it. He doesn't have those people anymore. And so now the reason why you're hearing him and seeing him do so many crazy things is because there are no guardrails. There are no people inside the White House to tell him not to say these things and not to do these things. And so he's just doing them and saying them, like knocking down part of the White House and closing down the Kennedy Center. But at some point, somebody's got to step in. It's like It's like your family. When there's a member of the family that's just out of control, there have to be adults in the room who step in. And so, I mean, I'll just show that image one more time. He wants to build something that's almost the same size as the U.S. Capitol. I just want to show this one more time. He wants to build an arch that is almost the same size as the U.S. Capitol. Is anybody going to stop him? Is anybody going to put in a call over to the White House and say, what the fuck is going on over there? Why is Grandpa McCrazypants, President of the United States, talking about building something that's almost the same size as the U.S. Capitol? What's happening in this country where the president is allowed to be this nuts? We're way beyond one flew over the cuckoo's nest. Where one flew over the White House, where one flew over the Kennedy Center, where one flew over the Potomac. And it's time for some folks over there on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue to find their balls. Where are your balls, Mike Johnson? Where are your balls, John Thune? Do you have them? Can you use them before our nation's capital is defaced and vandalized and bulldozed any further? Please find them and find them fast. My thanks to Steve Schmidt. My thanks to Matt Bellany. My thanks to the Minnesota Angry Man. Love him. Check him out on the socials. And my thanks to all of you. Please remember to subscribe. It's so important to support independent journalism. Look at our friend Don Lemon and how well he is representing independent journalism these days. It matters. It matters when you subscribe. It matters when you like. It matters when you share. It matters. And it matters when you watch. So thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Still reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta. I'll see you next time.